Today, I'm recapping NFL Week 9 and previewing Week 10 on this edition of the Shumake Take. Let's get it. All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day, man. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. This is episode number 20, and today we are recapping NFL Week 9, previewing Week 10, everything in between. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. I am still at my grandmother's house. I'll be home tomorrow. So Sunday we'll be back to regular scheduled programming, recapping, and then previewing, and having those back to being two separate videos, which will be useful, which will be helpful. But other than that, I've just been there's not really much other housekeeping to do. So in that case, let's get right into it. Before we recap NFL Week 9, we got some trades that happened on Tuesday. Today is Wednesday. So yesterday, the NFL trade deadline was here. It was here. Yes. And I got a list here of all the trades. Just wanted to go through the most notable ones really, really quickly. This is going to be really weird because I'm going to put my foot up right here, and then I'm going to have my tablet right here looking at my script. This is going to be really awkward. This is going to be a really awkward show. Just because I have to be able to look at this, and I looked over at my previous video, kind of leaning over was a little weird. Even this is still a little weird, but it's going to work, I think, just for this episode, and then we're going to be going back to normal. But some of the most notable trades that happened yesterday at the trade deadline. One I wanted to mention, the first one was the Cleveland Browns trading Zadarius Smith, edge rusher, to the Detroit Lions. And this is a good move for Detroit. I don't remember the draft compensation for this move, but the Lions, they lost Aiden Hutchinson for the year. That sucks. And Zadarius Smith is a really good player who can fill in that spot. And obviously, he won't be able to match the production of Aiden Hutchinson, but he's going to stabilize that group and stabilize that area. And it's no longer going to be a hole on the defense where it's going to be exploited. So Zadarius Smith, it's a good move for them, for Cleveland. I'm pretty sure they got decent draft compensation from what I remember. But if that's the case, good for them. I mean, they're bad right now, so trading away any player and getting any draft capital they can is paramount for them. The Saints, this is the big one, the big one. The Saints traded corner Marshawn Lattimore, two-time Pro Bowler, to the Washington Commanders. This is absolutely huge. The Saints, another thing here, they're bad, and they, had to get rid of one of their top players. They need to do a full-blown rebuild, completely gut almost everything, and you got to find a way to get out of that salary cap situation that you're in right now. If you're the Saints, it's the worst in the NFL by far. But that's not the point. The point is, Washington gets a two-time Pro Bowl corner. Marshawn Lattimore is a really, really, really good football player. And here's the thing. The secondary for Washington has not been great this year. It has not been... What's the word I'm looking for? Maybe not they've not been. They've been very vulnerable, and they've allowed a lot of quarterbacks to carve them up. I mean, they've had a couple of good games here and there, but it's not consistent enough to where you want to be, especially with the Commanders kind of running away. Well, not really running away, but they have a solid lead in the NFC East at the moment, and they're trying to push for a playoff berth. And in the playoffs, teams are going to throw everything they got at you. You need to be able to have good corners on the outside that are able to cover the best receivers in the NFL, and Marshawn Lattimore can do that. He can do that very, very well, and in return, the Saints get a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and I think a sixth-round pick, and then the Commanders get Marshawn Lattimore, of course, and then a fifth-round pick next year. So the Saints got pretty decent compensation, I would say, for Lattimore. I would say you could have got a second out of it, possibly. But then again, I mean, you got 3 picks. They traded him away for 3 picks. I don't know if they were all 2025 draft picks. I don't think so. I think it was 2 of them were 2025, the third and the fourth round pick. And then the 6th round pick was a 2026, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember off the top of my head. But this is a huge move for Washington. Like I said, their secondary was vulnerable, and they literally addressed one of the biggest holes on their roster with a really good football player. And for a team that's trying to make that playoff push, for the team that's trying to, that has a lead in the NFC East and is trying to clinch it and win it for the first time in, wow, it's only been 5 years. Wow. They won it in 2020 when they went 7-9. That's crazy to me. It's only been 5 years. Thought it'd been longer than that. But anyways, great move for them. This is the biggest one out of the entire list of moves that were made at the trade deadline, in my opinion. But another good corner that was traded, the Rams trade Tre'Davious White to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, another team where their secondary has not been very good this year for them. And Tre'Davious White has been pretty good. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Rams football this year. I watched the Rams and Seahawks game, which that was a great game. We'll get to that later in a little bit. But Tre'Davious White, coming off of a torn ACL last year, this year signs a 1-year deal with the Rams, kind of a 1-year prove-it deal, and he's done pretty well. He hasn't played absolutely spectacular. Like, playing nowhere near like he was when he first got to Buffalo those first few years there, but he's been very solid. And Baltimore needs that because Marlon Humphrey, he's good, but you have Nate Wiggins, the corner out of Clemson. He's struggling. He's a rookie. You need another guy there. And then obviously the safeties, they're all right. You know, they are who they are. Kyle Hamilton's really freaking good. But specifically on the outside, they really, really needed another corner. And Tre'Davious White gives them that. He's not going to give you spectacular play, but by God, he's going to give you some solid play. And he's one of those guys where if you don't hear a lot about him, that's a good thing. That means he's doing his job and he's covering his side of the field. And you don't hear a lot of Tre'Davious White from what I've heard. But great move for Baltimore. Again, another team that's trying to not just, win their division, but try and be the number 1 seed in their conference. Like Washington, huge move for Baltimore. Good for them. Let's see here. Steelers made 2 trades today, on Tuesday. They traded for Packers edge rusher Preston Smith, just bolstering their guys, bolstering that room. I mean, you already have T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith there, and you add another guy who's effective, who's really good, and will help keep that defensive line fresh and healthy, especially come playoff time. You're really going to need the all you can get. So bolstering a position where you're already strong at, kind of interesting, but at the same time, the edge rushers are what the Pittsburgh Steelers do best, is using their edge rushers and getting after the quarterback. It's one of the best things they do. So adding on to that is helpful. It's good. And they also traded for Jets receiver Mike Williams. This is also good for them because obviously they haven't had good receiver play overall this year. George Pickens has been on and off, and outside of that, there's really been a whole lot of nothing. Roman Wilson, their 3rd-round pick out of Michigan. I don't know if he's playing right now. I think he's still hurt. I'm not 100% sure. Steelers fans, let me know in the comments. And then Calvin Austin, great punt returner, but as a receiver, he's a good speedster, but there's not much more after that. And then after that, there's really not much left there. So Mike Williams gives you a solid option. You throw it up to him, he's going to go up and get it. Compliments George Pickens well, because now you got 2 guys that can go out there and do similar stuff, that have similar skill sets. So in that regard, it's good. It helps exemplify their physical brand of football they like to play. And especially because offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, he loves his ex-receivers. Throughout his coaching tenures. I mean, when he was at Tennessee, he had A.J. Brown. In Atlanta, he had Drake London for a couple of years, right? And then now he's got George Pickens and Mike Williams. So it's a good move. Both of those moves are good for them. One of them filling a position of need where they've been struggling, and the other one bolstering a position that's already been good for them and making it even better. And that's probably it. There's a couple more, like the Bengals traded for Bears running back Khalil Herbert. The Cardinals traded for Broncos edge rusher Baron Browning, who's been having a really solid year for them, I believe. And then 49ers trading for Texans defensive tackle Khalil Davis, just adding some more depth there. But honestly, the trade deadline wasn't as crazy as I thought it would be. Normally, like the past few years, we've seen some pretty big moves. And going into this year, it's the first year since 2000, I believe, where every team's going to have their 1st-round pick this year, which is insane. It's absolutely insane. No team has 2 first-round picks right now. Now, obviously, that is probably going to change by the time the draft rolls around. I mean, we still got 6, 7, 8 months. I don't know how long off the top of my head that the draft's going to be here. It's going to be here in April. And we got a whole, we literally got a whole offseason wave of free agency to go through first before we even get to the draft. And, that's in March. And we're still a long ways away from that. So, a lot can change, obviously, between then, but pretty interesting that no huge moves were made outside of the Marshawn Lattimore trade. A lot of it was just, trading for a solid player to help bolster a certain position group that's either already good or been lacking, and kind of just making those moves through, teams that are bad are trying to get draft capital, and teams that are good are trying to get a little bit better. But ultimately, that's all that really went down at the trade deadline. But set my tablet back down here for a little bit. Hope it doesn't fall down on me so I can actually see it. But let's talk about NFL Week 9. Let's recap it, starting with Thursday Night Football. The New York Jets defeated the Houston Texans 21-13. Was not expecting this one, if I'm being entirely honest with you. The biggest takeaway from this game was it was a tale of two halves. It was a tale of two halves. The first half, Aaron Rodgers had only 32 yards, and defense was struggling, especially in the run game. The Texans, with Joe Mixon, they were running the ball really, really, really good, and they had like 100 yards in the first half as a team, which is really good for them, really dominant. But in the second half, it just flipped. The Jets. The Jets made their adjustments. They were able to work and get Garrett Wilson open a lot of quick, short routes, and it allowed the stuff to open up down the field later on in the game. And then defensively, the Jets got 8 sacks. They absolutely destroyed the Texans' interior defensive line or offensive line, which we'll talk about in a second. And then they kept on running the ball up the middle over and over and over again. They kept on running the ball on the Jets' interior defensive line. And that's not what you want to do if you want to win a football game, because Quinnen Williams is right there and he's going to eat you alive. And he did in this game. Quinnen Williams dominated in this game. Hassan Reddick got a sack today. So, that tells you a lot, considering he hasn't played football in months and he's getting a sack. So, that says a lot about how bad this Texans offensive line was in this game. And other than that, C.J. Stroud got an injury in this game. He struggled. C.J. Stroud overall has really been struggling this season. Not that much. It's not bad. He's not bad. He's not even mid. He's still good. He's still playing good. But a lot of people expected C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans to kind of take that leap and become that Super Bowl contender people were projecting them, and they really haven't been that. They've been good. They're 5-3 right now, I think. 5-3 or 6-2, something like that. 6-3, something like that. They have 5 or 6 wins on the schedule, or so far this year, and they're running away with the AFC South. They're going to win it and make the playoffs for sure. But they really haven't been that A-tier, top-tier team that people had thought were expecting them to be. They're not on the same level as Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore. They're like the tier just below it. And C.J. Stroud, he's had his fair share of struggles this year. And in this game, he struggled as well. Now, granted, you're without Nico Collins. You're without Stephon Diggs. And Tank Dell had a really good game. And I said this. Watch for Tank Dell. Watch for Joe Mixon. Expect them to have big games. And they did. Tank Dell had 150 yards, I think. Joe Mixon went over 100, of course. But, outside of them, other players needed to step up. Other receivers like Xavier Hutchinson, Robert Woods, and the tight ends, Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz, they needed to step up, and they really didn't step up in this game like they needed to. And the Jets defense is good. They took advantage of it. And for going back to the Jets, for them, the tail of the game was really just play solid, clean ball and just get a lot of short throws out and kind of let the game come to them. That's what it felt like. They were trying to just push the ball. They were trying to just do too much in the first half. And the second half, they kind of just calmed down, settled down, took easy, short throws, just got into a rhythm and took the shots when they were there. And when they were there, they were freaking there. Even when they weren't there, they were there, because Garrett freaking Wilson, this dude's insane. Garrett Wilson is that receiver. He is one of the most talented receivers in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. And he hasn't had the year that I thought people thought he'd probably have. But here's the deal. Garrett Wilson's a good freaking receiver, man. He's really, really freaking good. His first touchdown catch, running a seam in the slot, caught it over the shoulder, one-handed, ran it in for a touchdown. That was beautiful. But the second one, Aaron Rodgers throws it up, heaves up to the end zone, catches it with one hand again. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you saw the game, you saw it, or you saw the video on social media. If you didn't see the clip, go watch it. It's absolutely insane. He jumps up with one hand, stretching outwards, catches it, falls down. Literally, it looks like he popped the Jordan logo while catching that football. The still image of it is absolutely nuts. Like, it doesn't even look like he should have come down with it, but he did. And for the Jets, that's obviously huge for them. That's what sparked, that first one-handed touchdown that he got is kind of what sparked everything. Then Devontae Adams had a long touchdown there at the end of the game. The defense kind of just got beat and gave up and called it a day. And then there goes, and Devontae Adams just waltzes right in. And while he didn't have 100 yards, I did expect Devontae Adams to have a good game, and he did. He did. He took advantage of these corners, especially I don't know if it was a corner or if it was a linebacker, but I think it was number 5. His name was Pierre. He got beat a couple times on critical situations. On the touchdown catch, he got destroyed, and then on 4th down, he got destroyed. Devontae Adams beat him, and then was a back shoulder fade, and bam, got leveled in the knees and went out for a while, and came back and did his thing. But I mean, that it was just a tale of two halves for this game between the Texans and the Jets. Another thing that happened in this game, Malachi Corley got a jet sweep, ran it in for a touchdown, or so we thought. He dropped it right before the end zone. Oh, man, I really didn't know how to branch into this. I should have branched or talked about it earlier, but at this point, might as well. But how do you do that? How do you do that? And in today's NFL, we've seen it happen so many times at the college level. We've seen it multiple times at the NFL level. Most notably, the person that started it was Deshaun Jackson as a rookie when he was in Philly. And why are NFL players today still dropping the ball before they go into the end zone? I don't understand it. I don't understand how mental lapses like that happen. And if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. But Jesus Christ, this is some type of history that is kind of almost hard to repeat. It almost has to be conscious. Obviously, it's not, because Malachi just wasn't paying attention. That's the simple matter of the fact, is that he wasn't paying attention and wasn't aware of where he was, and just dropped the ball and bounced into the end zone, and that's a touchback. But I mean, it's just insane to me that players are still making that decision. I mean, I get it. He's a rookie. He hasn't really touched the ball all that much, so the excitement was probably he was probably super freaking excited, as anybody would be in that situation. But man, you got to finish. You got to be able to finish and get that ball into the end zone, and don't drop it. Don't drop it, because you never know when your next touchdown is going to come in the NFL. You never know. You never truly know. And it just sucks for him that he made that mistake. But here's the hoping that he learns from it and he can score a touchdown at some point in his career. Maybe this year, maybe next year. Who knows? But honestly, bad decision. Big mistake from him. But ultimately, his team won, so it can be forgiven for the most part. Let's see here. Oh, I didn't even talk about the Texans' offensive line. The Texans' offensive line, this is part of the reason why the Texans aren't at the top tier of teams in the AFC like people thought they would be. It's their offensive line. This offensive line for Houston out in the interior is just bad. It's particularly the left guard. I don't know his name, but absolutely freaking terrible. He got destroyed by Quinnen Williams against the New York Jets, and all year he's just been really, really terrible. Shaq Mason hasn't been it. Their center, oh my God, I can't remember his name. I know the name, I just can't remember it. He hasn't been very good this year, and along with that, the offensive line is committing a ton of penalties for them, and it's all been in the interior for the most part. The tackles haven't been really very much the problem, if at all. Laremy Tunsil, he's doing his thing. He's great. But this interior, I mean, it's getting destroyed. Good defensive tackles are getting pressure. They're dominating. And for a team that wants to compete for a Super Bowl, you got to go up against, when you talk about the big three, you got to go up against Chris Jones for Kansas City. You got to go up against Ed Oliver in Buffalo. You got to go up against Justin Matabuke in Baltimore. And if you don't got the offensive line to hold those guys up and keep them in check, then you're not gonna beat them in the playoffs anytime soon. But the Texans got to get that fixed, and along with that, get their penalties fixed, because right now those are the two things that are absolutely killing them and holding them back from reaching their true potential. But let's move on, recapping the other games really, really quickly. First one, the Panthers beat the New Orleans Saints 23-22, and I'm not entirely sure where to start with this one. We'll start with the Panthers. We usually start with a winning team regardless. But shout out to Bryce Young. Had a touchdown pass, didn't play very well in this game, but when you look at it though, I mean, he's making good decisions. He wasn't unbearably bad in this game, and there's clear improvement from the last time he was starting in the beginning of the year, and that's good to see, because honestly, the Panthers, they're in a really bad spot. They need to see what they have in Bryce Young. You have to see. You have to see it through and see if he can improve. Because here's the thing. The Panthers, in my opinion, as of right now, they're guaranteed to be picking in the top 5, top 3. But right now, it's very likely they're going to be number 1 overall. And if you're number 1 overall and you're the Carolina Panthers, if you're going to stick with Bryce Young and he's good enough to where you can build around him still, you got to go get a guy. You have to go get some guys like Travis Hunter, most notably, or Teotora McMillan, the receiver out of Arizona. You got to get like a playmaker. Or maybe you trade down. Maybe you trade down and you get Kelvin Banks, the tackle out of Texas, or you get Will Howard, the tackle out of LSU. You get one of those guys. Like, that would be good, because especially if you're picking first, I mean, you can probably pick Travis Hunter, and that's probably what would happen in that situation. But then again, Dion's like, oh, I don't want my kids to go to over there. I don't want Travis and Shedeur to go over to Carolina. That's possible. So, I mean, you could trade down, and a trade down and gather a ton of capital would be huge for them. Then you get, you get a blue chip player. You get Kelvin Banks. You get Will Howard, Teotora McMillan, or even drop down a little bit more and you get Luther Burden, the receiver out of Missouri. He's more of a slot guy, but I mean, he's talented, very, very talented. So, I mean, the Panthers have a lot of options. And if you can figure out the quarterback and Bryce Young, you can go into next year with him as your quarterback, that solves a lot more problems. That solves a lot of problems with the team and with the organization, because now you can really begin to build and construct this roster. Because if you get rid of Bryce Young, you got to restart all over again. It sucks. But right now, Bryce Young, he played well these last couple games. He's improving. Not great, but he's getting there slowly, but hopefully surely. And definitely they're in a lot better position, it feels like, than the New Orleans Saints right now, who have lost 7 straight games. And with that, head coach Dennis Allen has been fired, and I called it this year. I thought he would be the first head coach fired, but I called it he'd be fired at some point this year. Because there's no way, there's simply no way that this team can go 2-7 and you can't be fired. Like, you can't start off the year 2-0 in the way that you started and lose 7 straight and still have your job. I know I've said that multiple times. It's a broken record at this point. But, I mean, it still holds true. It holds true. I mean, it's so hard to overcome stuff like this in the National Football League. It's hard to overcome losing. I mean, you can't overcome that. It's impossible. I mean, what are you going to do? Win 8 straight games? That's not happening. No team's ever done that. Not winning straight games. Like, start 2-7 and then go on a run. Like, that's not happening. It's simply not happening. And right now, I mean, the Saints are just bad. The Saints are a bad football team. They're injured a heck ton right now, and it just seems like there's no end in sight. That's the thing. Like, if in New Orleans, it just feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. It's just more darkness. Things are just getting darker and darker. And at that point, as I said it before, when they traded Marshawn Lattimore, that rhymed. But the Saints, they need a full-blown rebuild. You got to get rid of Derek Carr. Get rid of, any high-priced player on your team. I know you're extending Alvin Kamara, so you're stuck with him for now, which is fine. You need him, especially if you're going to start a rebuild. But you're going to have to get rid of a bunch of good players. And you got to get the salary cap situation straight. You can't start off every year at $80 million under the cap, over the cap. You can't do that. You simply can't do that. You have to get that down somehow and get that money paid. I'm not entirely sure what's causing it every offseason. Saints fans, let me know in the comments. But I mean, you got to start making headway and getting that stuff right. Because I mean, the Saints this offseason and for multiple years now, they really haven't had the money in the capital to bring in any high demand free agents to help make their team better. And you have to draft. I mean, obviously, you build your roster ultimately through the draft, but you need free agency to supplement that. You need free agency as a supplement to bring in players where you're going to have holes. And the Saints really haven't been able to do that as much as, they probably need to. I mean, this roster is full of holes, and I don't know. The Saints it's all doom and gloom for the Saints right now, and they're going to be picking top 5 in the NFL draft for sure. I'm going to drink some water really quick. A little awkward here because I don't have my water bottle with me. Hope I don't spill this, but there you go. I'm just gonna leave the cap off. Next game, the Washington Commanders beat the New York Giants 27-22. We'll start with the Giants on this one. And the big takeaway for them is that Daniel Jones threw his first touchdown in MetLife Stadium in almost 700 days. And he was 4 for 4 for 0 yards with a touchdown. That was his stat line at one point in this game, which, of course, Daniel Jones is going to throw a passing touchdown that goes for 0 yards. Of course, that's how he's going to break the record. If the Giants haven't been comedic enough, this is just a cherry on top. Because of course, that's how Daniel Jones breaks his streak. He's going to throw a 0-yard touchdown. Of course, he's going to. But even though the Giants lost this game, I would want to give a shout out to their rookie running back, Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy has been really solid for them. He's had a couple really good games in here, especially against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He went off in that game. And he's really emerged as the number one back for them. Devin Singletary is simply not a starting running back in this league anymore. He's simply not. I mean, I don't even know if he ever has. I mean, sure, he was the starter in a committee when he was in Buffalo, but he went to Houston, tried to be a feature lead, was too inconsistent. Dameon Pierce stepped in, and they split carries. And this year, Devin Singletary was a starter, inconsistent, and here comes Tyrone Tracy, and he's become the big time. He's gotten the majority of the carries for them, and he's been really good. Tyrone Tracy's been really good this year. I don't know if he's going to hit 1,000. I'm not entirely sure where his stats are at this point. But, I mean, you can't deny that, Tyrone Tracy being there kind of helps. It doesn't make the Saquon Barkley move any better, but at least right now it's kind of cushioning the blow because you're getting good running back play most of the time out of him. And then Malik Neighbors is still continuing to do his thing. But the Giants just feel like a team where it's like they have the pieces to kind of be there. Like they have a team that on paper that could be competitive, but they simply aren't. They simply aren't competitive, and they competed in this game, which good for them. But it's simply not enough. It's simply not enough, and they simply just can't get out of their own way and go win football games. And then you look on the flip side to the Commanders, they moved to 7-2 after this victory, and they look great. Jaden Daniels, again, I continue to say it, Offensive Rookie of the Year right now. And honestly, right now, I can't remember where I said this. Oh, yeah, they've only committed 3 turnovers this year. They've only committed 3 turnovers all year. You know how insane that is? That's so insane that since the NFL started tracking turnovers in the early 30s, they're the only team that has allowed only 3 turnovers so far into the season. It's insane. This offense, not only is incredibly explosive, it's incredibly efficient, and they take care of the football. And here's the thing. When you see a guy like Jaden Daniels performing as well as he has, it gives you a lot of optimism. It gives you a lot of optimism that things are going in the right direction, and as they obviously are. And this team, in the Commanders this year, last year's Houston Texans, through and through. There's no doubt about it. But for the Commanders, it's hard. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. Because, there's not much more to say about the Commanders that already hasn't been said. Their quarterback is playing really well. Their running game is solid. Their receiving game, their receivers are good. They're productive. And the offensive line, while not great, has steadily improved a bit. You can see improvement when you watch the Commanders. When I watched the Bears game a couple weeks back, you could see improvement. Yeah, while sure, they didn't hold up some of the times against Chicago, but Chicago's defensive line is pretty good, so that would make sense. But defensively, again, showed some vulnerabilities. They've got on a little bit of a stride recently. They've played pretty solid football over the past few games, in my opinion. And they got Marshawn Lattimore, which is huge for them. But for the Commanders, it's just another, it's a good team beating a bad team. There's not much to say past that. The players that you expect to be good were good, and the players that you didn't expect to step up didn't really step up, especially for the New York Giants. But Commanders, it's another win for them. They improved to 7-2 on the year as they make their case to be one of the top teams in the NFC. Next up, Dolphins-Bills. I watched this game. This was an absolute freaking thriller. Tyler Bass, kicker for the Buffalo Bills, kicks a 60-yard field goal to take the lead with 5 seconds left. And for Miami, absolute heartbreaker. They were in this game from start to finish. Tua played well in this game. Devon Achane continued to do what he does. Tyreek Hill, I don't know where Tyreek Hill was in this game. I can't remember if Tyreek Hill's hurt or not, but I don't even know if I heard his name in the game. I don't remember if I did. That's crazy to me. But either way, I mean, the Dolphins offensively, they did enough to win. I mean, they were just in this game 100% through and through, and they were leading. But this Dolphins defense simply just isn't good. This Dolphins defense simply is not good. They're too susceptible. They're just too susceptible, and they're not disciplined. They're allowing too much stuff to go over their head. They're allowing too many plays in critical moments, especially on third down. It's terrible. And for Buffalo, I mean, Buffalo's going to take advantage of that. They're going to take advantage. Josh Allen's doing his thing. He threw an interception in this game. Whoop-de-doo. He threw 3 touchdowns in this game. James Cook didn't run the ball very much. Solid, though. He had 4.4 yards a carry. Ray Davis, he had a big receiving touchdown, caught a screen pass, ran it like 50, 60-something yards to the house, which is good for him. And defensively, much more of the same for Buffalo, playing very solid. Really not much to say after that. But this game was good. It was a thrilling one. It was up and down. And for Miami, you have to at least feel a little bit better. You have to feel a little bit better that Tua's in there. I mean, obviously it's not equating to wins at the moment, but this team is now more competitive and they're in games now. They're no longer just laying down dead and they're just not in it. They're in it now. And is that going to help them, go to the playoffs? No. The Dolphins aren't making the playoffs this year. It's too far gone. But they can, they have a chance to go on a small run here at the end of the year and get to around 500, maybe get to 8-9 if you're lucky. But more than likely, they're going to finish 7-10 or 6-11. And I don't know. I don't know about Miami. It's a mess over there right now. But with Tua back, they're competitive. They're in games again, so that should help them out a lot. And hopefully, that's very optimistic. Maybe I don't know. I guess it's optimistic for Dolphins fans, but are they going to win any more games? Yeah, they're going to win a couple more, but they're not going to win any more. They're not going to play any more meaningful football in terms of playoff football this year at all. They already haven't, but it's still not happening. Next up, Chargers beat the Browns 27-10. Called this one. The backup quarterback magic has fallen off a cliff. Jameis Winston threw 3 picks in this game. Nick Chubb wasn't good either, but he's coming off of his injury, so I'll excuse it. Fine. But shout out to Cedric Tillman. Again, he had another good game. He had 80 yards, a touchdown in this game. Jerry Jeudy had 70 yards and a touchdown in this game. He was good as well, but outside of that, there was really nothing else. Outside of that, there was nothing else for Cleveland. Defensively, they got destroyed. Quentin Johnston blew them up over the top for a 66-yard touchdown in this game. J.K. Dobbins ran all over him. And Ladd McConkey's really emerged as a top threat for Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Coming out of college, I thought Ladd McConkey was going to be more of a slot guy, considering he was a little bit more undersized and his shiftiness, but he's played outside a bit in his rookie year so far, and he's played really well. He hasn't played spectacular, but I mean, he's very reliable. That's the word I'm looking for. He's a very reliable target. And when you got a guy like that who's shifty, quick, it reminds me a lot of Julian Edelman and how he was with Brady, how they always found each other no matter what. And you can say Brady Gronk too, but that slot receiver connection is so critical in the NFL because slot receivers don't get enough love anyways because they're not catching, they're not catching the big touchdowns, they're not, making the big plays, but what they do is they move the chains. They're the chain movers of an offense nowadays. And for Ladd McConkey, he's been doing a little bit of both, which you really like to see. As I said, I thought he was going to be more of a slot guy coming out of college, and he's shown that he can be more versatile than that. And for this offense, for John Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, it's really good for them. It's really good for this offense. And with Quentin Johnston slowly working his way in, and he's stacking a couple games together here and there, and it's good for them. It's good for them that we're seeing improvement in a receiving core that I thought was one of the worst in the NFL going into the year, and they've shown improvement throughout the year. Where next year, if they continue on the trend that they're going on, next year they're going to be something to be worried about. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with probably, and so look to keep on seeing that improve, and I'm hoping to see more out of Ladd McConkey because he has shown that he is a very, very solid football player for the Chargers. Next up, the Tennessee Titans beat the New England Patriots in overtime. This game was very, very, very ugly. I was able to catch a tail end of it. But good God, I mean, it's two teams going up against each other. I mean, there's the big takeaway here. Tony Pollard for Tennessee had 150 yards from scrimmage in this game, had a touchdown. Tony Pollard's been everything for the Titans offense, man. He's been absolutely everything. He's been great, and outside of him, no one else has been good at all. And I'm trying to gather my thoughts for a second. As you can tell, I'm going completely off script. I don't have any bullet points or anything. I'm just going strictly off of memory and I'm getting practice for being off script because I've noticed that, or not I've noticed, but obviously my dream is to be a play-by-play announcer, and play-by-play announcers, they have their own scripts for their own, for the scripted parts of a broadcast, but everything's ad-libbed. So for this episode, I'm really trying to practice ad-libbing and trying to practice my memory a little bit and see how well I can keep it going and keep it solid. But as I said, for Tennessee, Tony Pollard's been great this year. He's been the only thing about this offense that's been remotely good. Quarterback, obviously, has not been good. Wide receivers have not been good at all. Tight ends, awful. Offensive line is just, well, I've heard Titans fans say that it's been improving. I believe it. But, I mean, when your best offensive lineman is your rookie tackle, J.C. Latham, I mean, that's not saying a whole lot. And their starting center, Lloyd Cushenberry, got hurt in this game. He's done for the year, which massively unfortunate for them. But for New England is Drake May is the big takeaway of this game, though. Drake May showed his talent so on Sunday against Tennessee. A lot of people compare Drake May to Justin Herbert coming out of college when he was at North Carolina. And one of the things was, he can run, he can throw, and Justin Herbert and Drake May, they can run, but they're not known for their mobility in that sense. They have enough athleticism to run around and buy time in the pocket, but it's nothing on the level of a Lamar Jackson or a Anthony Richardson even, or a Patrick Mahomes, right? But they have the ability to make plays off script if needed. And Drake May not only, made plays off script, this man ran for dang near 100 yards. He had 90-something yards in this game. And it's how? How do you, as a Titans defense, how do you allow that? Unless you simply weren't prepared, which I guess that's the answer because they clearly weren't prepared. And Drake May, especially on that last play of the game, absolutely one of the best plays of the year to this point. 15 seconds, running around, just buying time, extending a play, finding Ramondre Stevenson in the end zone for a touchdown to extend the game into overtime. Unfortunately, Drake May threw two really bad interceptions in this game, and that's ultimately what did him in. But, I mean, Drake May, if you're a Patriots fan, you got to be excited about Drake May because he's making this offense look so much more energetic compared to when Jacoby Brissett's in there. And if you almost want to feel like that's the guy. And you feel like, the way he's been playing and the way that he's doing things in the pocket. And he doesn't look like, he's a rookie, but he's making those plays that really invigorate you, that really make you excited. There's plays where stuff like that, it feels like he's playing beyond his years. And when you get a rookie quarterback where you feel that way, you tend to feel really confident about it moving forward. And for the Patriots, that's all you can feel right now because they're going to be picking top 5 in the draft. And here's an opportunity for them to pick a guy like Travis Hunter or pick, T-Mac, Teodoro McMillan, pick one of these high, uber talented blue chip prospects where at receiver or even at corner, where they really need help. Well, if we're talking about Drake May, we're going to talk about receiver, but this is huge. This is huge that Drake May is playing well for them. And shout out to Drake. He played really good in this game against Tennessee. Too bad that it didn't equate to a win for them. But looking at how he played in this game overall, you have to feel very, very encouraged about Drake May moving forward. Next up, the Falcons defeated the Dallas Cowboys 27-21. The big takeaway of this game is Dak Prescott got hurt. He's going to miss several weeks coming up here during the season. I can't remember. I think part of it was a hand. I think the other part of it was like a side or hamstring injury. I can't fully remember, but we'll quickly go to Atlanta because Atlanta, they played well in this game. Bijan Robinson had almost 100 yards. Who was their leading receiver? Was it Drake London? No. I don't think it was Drake London being their leading receiver. But I can't fully remember. I can't remember all the stats and keep track of everything in my head, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying my best, but it's tough. But Atlanta, offensively, they had their way with Dallas's defense, which Dallas's defense has not been good all year. And for Dallas, it's just bad. It's at this point, they've went from mid to bad. And with Dak Prescott hurt, at this point, there's no hope left. I mean, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, unless you're delusional, there's no hope left. Your starting quarterback is done. Your running game is the worst in the NFL, objectively. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Raiders are giving them a run for their money. If those two teams played this year, it literally set offensive football back a decade. But it's all bad. CeeDee Lamb is great as normal, but no one else is really doing anything. They traded a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo away from getting him from Carolina, which that was incredibly stupid, in my opinion, because Jonathan Mingo has done nothing since he's entered the league, which is sad because I thought he'd be a little bit more of an impactful player, especially as an outside receiver. But for Dallas, it's just bad. I mean, there's just nothing here that you can be hopeful for. It's another one of these. Dallas is definitely picking top 10 in the draft this year. There's no doubt about it. There's nothing that the Dallas Cowboys really do well. And, with Dak, I mean, throwing the ball, I mean, sure, it's fine. It's passable. But when you got a running game as bad as Dallas, you can't do it. And I talked about it last episode. But again, I mean, Dallas just did not do anything this offseason. They did not do anything in this offseason to improve or get better. And you look at, all the players they lost. They lost their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, and now in Philly. They're doing pretty good. Dan Quinn, head coach in Washington, 7-2. They're leading the NFC East right now, right? And then, they were trying to get Derrick Henry during the offseason, and they never contacted him back for whatever reason, and he's leading the league in rushing right now while they're stuck with the corpses of Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook. And it's just terrible mismanagement. Jerry Jones just needs to step down and let someone else be the GM. At this point, I mean, Dallas, Mike McCarthy's probably going to get let go this year because this is the last year of his contract. He's probably gone after this year at this point. But, man, it's just bad. It's all bad in Dallas right now, and this game exemplified a lot of those fears and dooms, glooms, whatever words you want to use. And continuing with that trend, the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Las Vegas Raiders 41-24. Bengals, Joe Burrow continues to be the highlight of this team, one of the lone highlights of this team. Threw for 5 touchdown passes. Chase Brown had a really good game. He had 150 yards from scrimmage, 120 yards, had 37 receiving yards, which you need that. I mean, Chase Brown hasn't been good enough this year, nor has Zach Moss. I don't think he played this game. He didn't show up on the stat sheet, so I'm not sure. I think he probably must have been out with an injury if I had to guess. But Chase Brown stepped up in this game. He played well, took advantage of a bad Raiders defense, especially on the, well, I can't say the interior. I haven't watched enough Raiders football to really make an assumption on that. But, I mean, considering that, I thought Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby would make a bigger impact this year, and they really haven't. But, I mean, for Las Vegas, well, we'll continue for Cincinnati for a second. Jamar Chase he had a solid game in this game. Mike Gesicki really stepped up. He had 100 yards. He had a couple of touchdowns in this game against the Raiders. And defensively, they were fine. They got multiple sacks. Trey Hendrickson had 4 sacks in this game, which good for him. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, taking advantage of a horrendous offensive line. So that's to be expected. But for the Raiders, I don't know what happened. I guess Gardner Minshew got hurt in this game. I don't know where Aiden O'Connell is. I don't know. Desmond Ridder was in. I saw on the stat sheet that Desmond Ridder played in this game. When did Desmond Ridder go to the Raiders? Can someone tell me in the comments when Desmond Ridder went to the Raiders? Last I knew, he was in Arizona with the Cardinals, being Kyler Murray's backup. I don't remember when he went to the Raiders. I don't remember that at all. I don't know what happened there, but either way, he was there. He played this game. He was 12 of 16, 75 yards, and threw a touchdown. Didn't really do too much, but stat line wise, solid, I guess. But the only thing for Las Vegas that's been good is Brock Bowers. Jacoby Myers had 100 yards in this game. He was good. But overall this year he hasn't been consistent enough, and it's been all Brock Bowers for the most part. He had a decent game against Cincinnati. But the big thing is just defensively, the Raiders are just a mess. They're an absolute mess. They can't get after the quarterback. They can't stop the run. Passing is literally just free game for anyone playing them right now. They're one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. And for a team that I thought this team would finish 7-10. I thought they'd be good enough to compete and make like a pseudo playoff push, but not be good enough, and then they'd end up, picking like 11th or 12th in the draft and then losing an opportunity to get, a really good quarterback in this draft, which they desperately need, or at least get a top-tier playmaker. And, well, they're going to get it. They're going to get their playmaker or their quarterback because they're picking top 5 in the draft this year. I'm going to say that until it gets annoying. What is creaking on? It's the cabinet behind me. There's a hanger behind me. But the Raiders, it's all bad. I didn't expect them to be this bad, honestly. I thought they'd be a lot more, competitive. Even at 7-10, I mean, this is nowhere near what I thought. They're actually legitimately bad, which, I don't mean to root for a team to lose or players to not win, but I mean, Raiders fans need this. You need a reset. You need a reset for your franchise. Get yourself a good quarterback, hopefully next year in the draft, and continue to lose. But for Antonio Pierce, his seat's hot. His seat is flaming hot right now because considering how well the team rallied under him last year at the end of last year when he took over as head coach, and this year it's just not been good. This year it's simply not been good enough, and there's nothing that he does well. I'm willing to give him another year, maybe with a better roster. But even then, the roster for Las Vegas, at least offensively, offensively it's pretty bad. Defensively, I didn't think it was that bad for the most part. Like, there's a couple pieces in there that are really, they're solid and really, or at least solid and really good, and you can build around. But I don't know. It's just all bad in Las Vegas right now, except for Brock Bowers mostly. And Cincinnati took advantage of it. Cincinnati's a mid team, and mid teams will beat the bad team. I don't know, man. I simply don't know. The next one, the Broncos losing to the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens beat them 41-10. Oh boy, did I not expect this? I thought the Ravens were going to win this game for sure, but I didn't think it was going to be an absolute blowout. I thought the Broncos would give them a little bit of troubles, if you will, but they didn't. Baltimore completely wrecked them up. Derrick Henry went off. Lamar Jackson had only 180 yards. Or 280 yards, but he threw 19 passes and 3 touchdowns. Absolutely incredible, efficient day. Derrick Henry moves to 8th all-time in rushing touchdowns, which good for the King, great for him. And receiving-wise, Zay Flowers had a huge touchdown in this game, explosive. And defensively, they shut this Broncos offense down. A team that I mentioned, doesn't have a good secondary. Sure, they allowed 100 yards to Courtland Sutton. Fine. Outside of that, there was almost nothing. They picked off Bo Nix, and Bo Nix caught a touchdown in this game. Courtland Sutton threw a touchdown to him, which that was fun. That was cool to see. But outside of that, there was a whole lot of nothing burger for Denver. But I mean, it's disappointing if you're a Broncos fan. But here's the deal: this team's not ready to compete with teams like Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo. They're not ready to compete with those types of teams yet. They're not there. But you know what? They've beaten the bad teams. They've been able to manhandle the bad teams and take control. And they're a mid-football team. They're gonna be making a playoff push. They're gonna make a late playoff push at the end of the year probably. I don't think they're gonna make it in, but this team it's all right. It's all right. It's not bad. It's not good. Or not great, but they're a solid unit. Their defense is really good, and offensively, on a good day, they're going to be competitive and they're going to win football games most of the time. So, I mean, they're going to be fighting for a playoff push at the end of the year, but like I said, they're not going to get it. They can't compete with teams like Ravens yet, but that's fine because they don't need to be. They're in year one of a full blown rebuild, so do that with what you will, and they're 5-5 or 5-4, 4-5 at the moment. So I mean, they're right there in the mix at this point in time. And for Baltimore, again, dominant game from them. They needed this, especially after getting upset by Cleveland last week. And Baltimore Ravens, they're still here. They're still here, and they're still dominating. I don't know what else to tell you. Right now, they have the top 3 offense in the NFL, probably arguably number 2, right behind Detroit. And they're going to continue steamrolling. I think they got an easy game next week. I can't remember 100%, but we will get to that later on. We got, how many games left do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games to go. 6 games to go. If you give me 1 second, I apologize. I'm just going to look and see how far we're in. It's this paranoia, man. We're at 50 minutes. That's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. Getting through it pretty solidly, pretty smoothly. But moving on, the Cardinals and Bears game. The Arizona Cardinals beat the Bears. I can't see this. 29-9. That's right. And the big takeaway from this game was that it hailed in Arizona. It hailed in Arizona. Let that go into your brain for a second. Let that kind of like trinkle into your brain. Let the hail just thunk you in the brain a little bit about that. Arizona, the state where it gets so hot, your car will melt. Your Crocs melt on the pavement. And you're getting hail? In November? Well, now that I think about it, that makes sense. I mean, it's still odd for Arizona to get hail because, I mean, it's incredibly hot. But then again, it's a desert. And if you know anything about geography and biomes and science, any desert, gets really, really hot during the day. But in return, it gets very, very, very cold at night. So I guess during the wintertime, it gets a little colder, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I guess that makes sense. That's why winter's winter. I don't even know what I'm going on. I'm rambling way too far at this point. But either way, the biggest takeaway was that there was hail in this game, which for Arizona is pretty wild. But what's pretty more wild is that the Cardinals defense played a great game today. Oh God, I keep saying today. It's not today. It was Sunday. Today is Wednesday. Jesus Christ. However, the defense played a really great game against Chicago. They held Caleb Williams down. They limited his playmaking ability. Rome Odunze had 100 yards, his first 100-yard game, I think. Maybe his second. I'm not sure, but good for him. That's good. But the thing is, it's always a tough task going against Chicago in their offense. Why? Because offensively, they're just insanely talented. They're insanely talented. Caleb Williams is really talented. But games like these are what make, or why Caleb Williams is, why is, you see it, the rookie come out of him and, everyone's talking about the one play where he probably scrambled around for like 10 plus seconds. And after 5 seconds, DJ Moore literally just runs and sits on the bench. He literally goes and walks off, sits on the bench. And it's hilarious. He's Caleb Williams still running around trying to extend the play. And that should probably be talked about more because, I mean, DJ Moore literally just gave up on his quarterback and gave up, on that play, which you can't have. You can't do that. As much as we're calling out Anthony Richardson for sitting out a play, I'll be the one to call out DJ Moore and say that's not good. That's not being a good teammate. You can't walk off the field in the middle of a play while your quarterback's trying to find something and help you out. Is it partially his fault because he held the ball on too long? Sure, fine. But here's the thing: you got to be able to bail your quarterback out. You don't do that and hang your quarterback out to dry. I'm sorry, that's just a dumb move for DJ Moore. Not helping the team out at all with that one. But either way, the Cardinals defense made Caleb Williams look like a rookie in this game. He struggled a lot. And they're falling down to 4-4, right? Yeah, they fall down to 4-4. They had a bye week. Or I think they're going into their bye week this week. Are they? I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure they're 4-4. No, they're 4-4. They're 4-4 right now. Definitively, they are 4-4. I'm saying 4 is a lot. But, I mean, this team is, it's what I thought they would be. They're going to have their moments, but they're going to have their bad moments too. I mean, it's a new team. It's a new offense, a bunch of new pieces, a rookie quarterback, and it's going to take some time. Now, to be fair, I thought that the Commanders would be 5-12, and they're 7-2 right now. So they're obviously getting it figured out. But for the Bears, it's frustrating. As a Chicago Bears fan, it has to be frustrating because a lot of Bears fans were excited about what this year could be for them, but clearly, I mean, it's still one of those years where it needs a time in the oven. It needs a 1 year in the oven before it really, comes out warm and baked, ready to go. So I'm not too worried about Chicago. I mean, I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. They're on pace to finish 8-9, which is what I had them going. But honestly, this year was about getting the players in here, getting chemistry, developing Caleb Williams, and then next year really exploding because honestly, the big thing for Chicago, they need an interior offensive line. Their interior offensive line is absolutely terrible. And they need a good backup running back. DeAndre Swift is good, but when he's not been in, the offense has simply not been as good. You needed a good complement to help maintain that workload a little bit, especially because you traded away Khalil Herbert. And then defensively, the Bears defense is fine, but they were destroyed this game against Arizona. Arizona's offense is good this year. There's no doubt about it. At this point, it's good. And it starts with James Conner. James Conner's had 100 yards in almost every game. He's top 5 in the league in rushing, I'm pretty sure. He has to be, right? But James Conner's been really good. He's very underrated. He's a very underrated running back for them. Kyler Murray, while he has been putting up great numbers these past few weeks, he's been very efficient. He's been completing like 68, 70% of his passes. He's in that range. He's playing solid. And for right now, I mean, it's a winning formula. It's a winning formula, and the Cardinals are now definitively 5-4 and definitively first place in the NFC West right now. And they've met their win total for the year that I thought I had them at. I had them going 5-12 or 4-13 because I thought they weren't ready to compete yet, and there were too many other good teams for wins to go around. And they've been one of those teams that's been taking those wins, and they've been in the mix. And it's still a long way to go before the playoffs start, but right now, I mean, they're fighting. Obviously they're winning the division, but I don't think they're going to finish that way. But they're definitely at least going to be fighting for a playoff spot, which is not what I expected from the Arizona Cardinals. So I mean, shout out to Rich Gannon or Jonathan Gannon and his coaching staff over there for getting this team to where it is right now. And they traded for Baron Browning, as I mentioned earlier, from the Broncos. They needed edge rusher help. I don't know if Darius Robinson, their first round pick, is playing right now. I think he's still hurt. I'm not sure. But I mean, Baron Browning's been good for the Broncos. They get a good guy. They get a guy in there that's going to help them out, especially because they're not really good at getting after the quarterback. Although they got like 6.5 sacks in this game. They did pretty good in that department. But for Arizona, they are a frisky playoff team right now. They are definitely in the mix. And for Chicago, they are exactly where I thought they would be. They're going to have their good moments, and they're going to have their bad moments too. It's this year is just all about getting everybody on the same page and kind of just developing the chemistry, and let next year be the year where it's going to go off. Now, Chicago, they could go on a run. That's entirely possible. I'm not going to leave that off the table. I'm not going to take it off the table, but just kind of want to give a little reminder to everyone who kind of overhyped the Bears going into this year, but overall, I'm not panicking about either team right now. Everything is perfectly fine. Just happened for one game to not go one way for another team. Honestly, this next game, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's 28-23. That's right. And the name of this game was athleticism. This week overall has been insane for athletes. I mean, we've saw insane catches. Justin Jefferson, who we'll get to later on. Devontae Smith in this game had a huge one-handed grab. Probably the catch of the year, arguably. Garrett Wilson's probably has the catch of the year, but man, Devontae Smith made his case in this game. Literally dove over the shoulder, boom, fell down, got his shins in before the knees, and was able to catch the football. Was insane. That wasn't the most insane play in this game. Oh my God, Saquon Barkley. The GM should be fired after seeing Saquon Barkley make one man miss, pull a spin move, and then pull a backwards hurdle. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? That was one of the craziest football plays I have ever freaking seen. Saquon Barkley's nuts. He's actually nuts, and he's a candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. He has to be a candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. Because every time he steps on the field for Philly, he just steals the show. He absolutely steals the show, and the offense, I could argue,
runs through him right now. It runs through him right now, and it's working. It's working for them, and this offense is looking better than it has all year long. And it's good to see because, going into the Cincinnati game a couple weeks back, I said that, this game is going to show who the Eagles really are. And they've shown that offensively, they are who they are. They're great. They're great offensively, and they're playing after what they should be. Now, A.J. Brown got hurt in this game, which is massively unfortunate. But, I mean, how can you not be impressed with what the Eagles have been able to do so far this year on offense? They've been incredibly fun to watch, and I don't know. It's been great. It's simply been great. There's not much more to say. But for their defense, their secondary played a solid game. I know I've been talking a lot about them in these past few episodes, but they played a solid game. They hung around though. They were up like 22-0 or something like that, 21-0, and they allowed Jacksonville to come back, and they had to score late to to hold on to their lead and win the game. But for Philly, I mean, Philly's kind of they're finally catching their stride. It looks like they're finally they're finally getting their feet underneath them and kind of hitting the ground running. But for Jacksonville, I mean, it's nice to see that the offense is improving. Like, they're getting more competitive in games. But, I mean, Trevor Lawrence threw 2 picks in this game. The running game was absolutely horrendous from both Etienne and Bigsby. And at this point, I mean, right now, Doug Peterson is looking to be the third head coach fired this year. He's looking to be that way. And things aren't looking good next week, like for week 10. But, man, I mean, it just sucks. It just sucks because so many people thought that Jacksonville would be good this year. And I called it. I said they'd be a 7-10 football team. But right now, they don't even look like a 7-10 football team. They look like a 5-12 football team at this moment. I didn't even think it would be this bad. But, I mean, I try to tell people this team is not as good as people were making it out to be, and they're simply not that good. They're simply not that good. Outside of their top playmakers and, Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas, Josh Hines-Allen, Travon Walker, and a couple other players, that's it. Everywhere else is just bad. It's not good. And for Jacksonville, they're picking top 5. They're no team that's picking top 5 in the draft this year. Definitely top 10. Most definitely. Next up, the Rams beat the Seattle Seahawks 26-20 in overtime. This was a great game. I watched this one. The big takeaway here was Jackson Smith and Jigba had 180 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game, including the game tire that sent the game into overtime. And this dude, here's the thing. JSN coming out of Ohio State, I thought it could have been a top 10 pick. His talent level was insane because not only was he a good slot receiver, he had some plays on the outside that was really good. Not that he could be an outside receiver. I thought he was more of a slot guy, and he is a slot guy. But, I mean, his instincts, his ability to just find the hole in your coverage and just exploit it, it's incredible. And that's what, a lot of people said about him coming out of college was his instincts. He had really good instincts, and he absolutely decimated the Rams defense. And the Rams defense really hasn't been all that good this year outside of their defensive line and, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Byron Young. But JSN has been really good. In DK Metcalf's absence, he's really stepped up and become a really, the premier threat that people thought he could be coming out of Ohio State. And his quarterback, Geno Smith, I mean, what really killed him was the 3 picks. But, I mean, especially the pick 6, the 103-yard pick 6 that was taken to the house. Obviously, pick 6 taken to the house. But that was really bad. It was a really bad interception. The defense completely that corner just saw it, grabbed it, ran it back. Bad throw by Geno, but the other takeaway of this game was Demarcus Robinson. Cooper Kupp had 100 yards in this game for the Rams, but Demarcus Robinson caught what was the game-leading touchdown at that point in time with 2 minutes to go, and then he caught the game-winning touchdown in overtime to win it. And Demarcus Robinson has been an interesting target for them. I really haven't kept too much tabs on Demarcus Robinson because, as I said earlier, I didn't really watch Rams football all that much this year. Haven't been able to, but Demarcus Robinson has been okay. He's been okay for the Rams. He hasn't been terrible. He hasn't been great. But, I mean, he's been solid. And especially without Puka Nakua, and who got ejected in this game, by the way, which is crazy because him and the defender threw a punch at each other, and he was the only one that got ejected. What the heck was that? But, in him and Cooper Kupp's absences throughout the year, I mean, Demarcus Robinson has been a solid target for Matthew Stafford. In this game, he had 90 yards. Like I said, 2 critical touchdowns at the end of the game to help propel them forward to a victory. And right now, I mean, the NFC West is just wide open. Rams are 4-4. They're 4-4 right now. The Cardinals are 5-4. Seahawks are 4-5. The 49ers are 4-4. And it's a wide open race right now. And it's going to be a matter of who's going to step up and kind of go on that run at the end of the year. Excuse me. And I think it's going to be San Francisco, honestly. But, I mean, once they get healthy, they're going to be the ones that are, they're going to be the team to beat in the NFC West, excuse me. But right now, I mean, it's just wide open. It's wide open, and especially with these division games, division games are always critical, but right now in this division where it's so tight, you can't afford to lose divisional games at this moment. You cannot afford to go down and drop in your division, especially because you have the Packers in playoff position, the Vikings in playoff position, the Lions are obviously in playoff position. Then you have the Falcons, Tampa is in the mix. Then you have Washington, Philly in the mix. That's 8 teams right there. That's 8 teams. So, I mean, and one of the division winners, obviously for the NFC West, are going to make the playoffs. And right now, I mean, at this point, if you don't win that division, you're probably not making it in. So it's very critical that you don't lose your divisional games. And the Seahawks faltered big time. They had a lead. Well, I mean, they came back, went to overtime, and their defense just didn't hold up. Their defense just failed when it mattered most, and that sucks. But, I mean, I've talked about this before. The Seahawks, their defense is learning, it's growing, and these are some of the growing pains associated with it, with a new head coach, a new young defensive-minded head coach at that. But this game overall was really good. Matthew Stafford played really well in this game, and the players, everyone that you expected to play well and showed up and played well in this game. It was fun. It went down to the wire, but the Rams showed they wanted it more in this game, and that's how they came off with the victory. 3 games to go. The Lions beat the Packers 24-14. The Lions have the best offense in the NFL, and it's at a point right now over the past few weeks where they're scoring more touchdowns than Jared Goff is throwing incompletions, and he's completing passes at an 80% rate right now on average, give or take, which is insane. He's not throwing for a lot of yards, but he's literally the most efficient quarterback in the NFL right now, and it's not even close. He is the most efficient quarterback. The most. Objectively, he is the most efficient quarterback in the NFL right now, and it's great. It's honestly great because David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, they're going insane. They're absolutely just carrying, the bulk of this offense, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. I mean, these guys are just constant threats. I mean, no matter what this team needs to be, I mean, they're going to be it. If they need to run the ball a ton, they're going to be able to do it. And if they need to throw the ball a ton, they're going to be able to do it well too. And defensively, they pitched a great game. Brian Branch, he got ejected in this game for targeting, which was really bad, for him. But they held the Packers offense to 14 points. And we got to start having some questions about Jordan Love and the Packers, especially Jordan Love, because he's made a lot of boneheaded decisions these past few weeks, and since he's coming back from his injury. And, yeah, man, it's interesting, to say the least, because he's still playing good. He's making good throws, and he's making good decisions most of the time, but he's making those 1 or 2 decisions that are just kind of like, what are you doing? And granted, they were playing in the rain, which didn't help either. But, I mean, you play outdoors. You should have advantage in the rain against a team that plays indoors all the time. Especially because they almost never go outdoors this year. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Packers at the moment. They're definitely going to be competing for the playoffs at the very, very least. But, I mean, Jordan Love is going to have to get those turnovers down. He's going to, make some better decisions. Because those small incremental, those big turnovers, how am I going to word this? That one big mistake is costing them, games where they should either be competitive or winning, and then there's a couple games where bad teams are hanging around. This is what happened in Jacksonville last week. he had a couple critical turnovers that were in really big moments, and it allowed Jacksonville to kind of hang around and work their way back into the game and nearly came back and pulled off an upset. And if Jordan Love keeps doing this into the playoffs, teams are going to take advantage of that. Teams are simply going to take advantage, and we'll be seeing the Packers leaving in the wild card round. And for a lot of people that thought the Packers were going to be a Super Bowl contender this year, they really need to start playing some better football, particularly Jordan Love. Not that he's playing bad, but he's got to stop making the dumb turnovers and stop making the dumb mistakes, because teams like Detroit are going to make you pay for it. Okay, moving on to the primetime games. Sunday Night Football, the Vikings beat the Colts 21-13. This game was mostly boring. It was fun for like the first half, and then the fourth quarter kind of stagnated and went out kind of not great, but Sam Darnold played well in this game. Aaron Jones had a decent game. Justin Jefferson went off in this game, had a really good game, had a really insane catch. And Jordan Addison had an insane one-handed catch in this game, diving one-handed grab. Forgot about that one until now. And defensively, they got multiple sacks on Joe Flacco, slowed this offense down, and, well, I mean, this offense, simply put, is not that good for Indy. Just because, I mean, it's still young. It's still really young outside of Joe Flacco. I mean, look, Michael Pittman, he's a veteran, but he's still working his way back from a back injury. Then Josh Downs is in year 2. Adonai Mitchell's in year 1. And then Alec Pierce is in year 3. Like, there's no veteran receiver on this team outside of Pittman. And that youngness is showing, especially against a good defensive mind like Brian Flores, the D coordinator for Minnesota. And they're going to take advantage of that. They're going to pressure the quarterback. They're going to tee off on you. And their corners are good enough to stop the receivers. And so, for this Colts team, even with Flacco at quarterback, this tells me that they're going to have a hard time competing for a playoff berth, because Minnesota is one of those teams where, like, defensively they're good, but they've been vulnerable. They've shown that they can be vulnerable, and considering that there's a lot of talent in the Colts receiving core, the fact that they with a veteran quarterback that they couldn't take advantage of it in some way, it just sucks. It just sucks for them. But other than that, there's not really much more to say. Other than this game kind of just got boring at the end. But a game that didn't get boring was the Monday Night Football. Chiefs beat the Buccaneers 30-24. This game goes to overtime. And the big thing for this game is the Bucs should have went for 2. Obviously, people are talking about that. You don't give the ball to Mahomes in overtime. You never do that, because he gets the ball to start, you're losing the game. You're losing the game. You felt it. You all knew it. It happened. But Mahomes, he got hurt in this game. Ankle injury as he was throwing a touchdown pass. Kind of just, as he stepped down, it kind of just buckled, and the force kind of bounced back up into him. You know, when you bounce on a trampoline, and sometimes instead of jumping, like, the energy kind of flows right back up into you, and then you kind of like just go like stiff and you fall over, and it hurts. That's kind of what happened with his ankle. He threw the touchdown. It happened. He was limping, couldn't walk. And watching this game, I was like, oh my God. Like, if there was any chance for the Bucs to pull off a win, it was Mahomes getting hurt and not playing the rest of the game. But guess what? He played the rest of the game, played great, threw an insane touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins, who went off in this game, had a big catch in triple coverage. It was a bad throw from Mahomes, but DeAndre Hopkins is going to make those catches all the freaking time. So he played great. Travis Kelce played great as always. And for Tampa, they were in this game. They were in it through and through. I keep hitting this hanger. They were in it from start to finish. And shout out to Bucky Irving and Rashad White for making a lot of critical plays in this game, especially on third down. And shout out to Cade Otton. Cade Otton, I talked about him last week, but he's really emerged as a really good tight end in this league. And he's fun to watch. He's fun to watch. He's smart. He's physical. He's exactly what you want in a tight end. And the receiving or the tight end group and the running backs, they've really stepped up. In the absence of Chris Evans, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. Even Russell Shepard in this game had an insane catch in this game too. He kind of dove to the side and spun around and caught it. That was insane in the fourth quarter. If you know, you know. But the Bucs were in this game through and through 100%. And had they gone for 2, they would have won the game. They would have stopped the Chiefs ended up punting it, on the next drive and held them from driving down the field with 30 seconds to go and 3 timeouts, which you never do with Mahomes, but they did it and it worked at that point in time. But had you gone for 2, they probably would have stopped it. They would have stopped them probably in 1. I mean, I don't know. Just awkward decision to not go for it there at the end of the game. But shout out to Tampa. With the other 2 top receivers, they went toe-to-toe with the best team in the NFL right now. And, well, they didn't come off with the win, but they showed that this team they're still here. They are not going to lay down and, wave the white flag. If they're going to go down, they're going to go down fighting to the very end. But we got to move on to NFL Week 10. Forgot to, actually, let's do some quick math real quick. I got time, right? Oh, a dabble just fell over. So let's think. Let's look at my thing real quick and let's see if I can quickly do some math. Well, I can't do some math because I can't remember what it was last week. So, unfortunately, I cannot tell you what my record is right now for picking games. But let's see. I was right about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I went 11 and something, like 11 and 4, I think, something like that. I think two teams had a bye week this week. So 11 and 4, still obviously winning record. So there we go. That's all you really need to know. But we got to move on to Week 10, starting with Thursday Night Football. We got an absolute good one this time around, hopefully, and it's the Bengals going to Baltimore to face a rematch. Second time these 2 teams face off this year. And I'm going to go crazy here. But, well, I'm not going to go crazy. I said it earlier when I was making the prediction initially. I picked the Bengals. I'm switching this. I'm going with Baltimore all the way. There's no way that Baltimore's offense doesn't completely, I believe this is going to be another shootout like it was last year or a few weeks ago earlier in the year, where that was probably the game of the year. This game under the lights, this one has the opportunity to be better than that. Now, is that a high bar? That's a very high bar to reach, but it's entirely possible because Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is playing great. He's playing like a top 5, top 10 quarterback right now. And despite everything going bad around him, he's still producing. And for Baltimore, they're going to absolutely destroy this defense. They're going to absolutely decimate this Bengals defense. And they're going to continue on their run. They're going to continue on their, their tantrum of anger or something. They're going to continue trampling on their opponents. But give me the Ravens to win this game simply because, they're just a better football team. And I think that, taking advantage, going up against the Bengals defense, the way they've been playing, they're going to take advantage of it. And Baltimore, they traded for Tre'Davious White, which I don't know if he's going to play in this game. I don't even know how much it's going to help if he does. But expect Deontay Johnson to also play in this game. He didn't play last week. So, with these new additions, give me Baltimore when I feel more comfortable now picking Baltimore than I do Cincinnati. This next game, this Saturday or Sunday morning in Germany, Giants at Panthers. This game's good. I'm not getting up early to watch this game. I'm telling you this right now. I'm not watching this game. I'm not going to. I should, but I'm not going to watch this game. This game is going to be absolutely terrible. And that's going to be some famous last words because this game is going to end up being really freaking good. Watch. But give me the Giants to win this one. Honestly, it's a toss-up between 2 really, really bad teams that will be picking top 5 this year. So, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, but honestly, the Giants have been more competitive in football games compared to the Panthers, and that's why I'm going to have them winning. Daniel Jones is better. The offense for New York is better, and I expect this Giants defense to be able to tee off on Bryce Young a little bit because the Panthers' offensive line is horrendous. So, in a tale of 2 bad teams, give me the Giants to win because amongst the bad, they are slightly better. Next up on the list, Patriots going to Chicago to face the Bears. Give me the Bears to win this game. Give me a good bounce back opportunity for Caleb Williams and this offense. And for New England, it's a test for Drake May. Because Drake May did really good against Tennessee Titans defense last week. That's a pretty good unit in its own right. But you're going up against the Bears defense that's a lot more solid. A lot more solid of a unit in all departments. And it's going to be a good test. It's going to be a good test to see how well Drake May plays, considering how mobile he was. Expect the Bears to, be prepared for that and kind of take that away if possible. And for Chicago, I mean, you're going up against a really bad Patriots defense. And, Christian Gonzalez is having an incredible year for them. But outside of that, there's nothing. And he can only cover one receiver at a time. So, I mean, expect DJ Moore to get plenty of opportunities. Expect Roma Dunze to get plenty of opportunities in this game for them. But I think the Bears are a better football team, which is why I have the Bears winning this game. Next up on the list, Bills go to Indy to face the Colts. Again, give me the Bills to win. They're the better football team. Offensively, they're going insane right now, and the Colts defense is not good. It's not good. That's a bloodbath waiting to happen. And offensively, right now, I don't know what the Colts are. The Colts are going to be competitive in this game. I think the first 3 quarters are going to be closer than people think. And then fourth quarter, the Bills are going to pull away and kind of show why they're so much better than the Colts. But right now, give me the Bills to win this game. There's really no debate there to me. This next one, though, is interesting. The Vikings at the Jaguars. I have the Vikings winning this game, but I want you to keep your eye on Trevor Lawrence. I want you to keep your eye on this offense. Because here's the thing. This Jaguars offense, these past few weeks, has shown that they can be competitive and that they can produce against good defenses. The Packers defense, they produced against. The Eagles defense, they were able to get some production against. And the Vikings, their defense, on their 2-game losing skid, showed some serious vulnerabilities. And I think that Jacksonville could take advantage of it, possibly. I don't think it's going to be enough for them to pull it off an upset. But I want you to watch the Jaguars offense in this game, because I have a feeling that they're going to make this game more competitive than it probably will and it probably should be. And for the Vikings, this game might actually end up becoming a little bit of a late game shootout, if you will. Like, this game might be like close at the half, and then here in the third quarter, you're going to see a few touchdowns fly off. Then the fourth quarter, you might see a couple touchdowns fly off. Like, I expect the second half to be a lot better than the first, if that makes sense. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for the Jacksonville Jaguars offense in this game. But I think the Vikings are going to win it. They're a better football team. And, after facing the Colts, I think they got this one in the bag. Next one, Broncos at Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs to win this game. I mean, it's the Chiefs and Mahomes until it isn't. I mean, at this point, there's not much more to say. The Broncos defense is going to, do what they can to stop Mahomes, but no one's been able to stop Mahomes right now. So not much going there. I mean, there's a chance. There's an absolute chance. This game is going to be, I think this game will be competitive at halftime. This game will be competitive at the half, and maybe going into the third quarter, this game is going to be tight. But honestly, the Chiefs are just better, and you're going to see why the Chiefs are so much better in this game. Give me the Chiefs to win this game easily. Next up, Falcons, Saints. Falcons, they're winning this game. The Saints just fired their head coach. They're done for the year. All hope is lost for them at this point of having any type of season salvagement. And the Falcons, they're going to steamroll the Saints. I expect this to be a double-digit loss. For New Orleans, give me the Falcons to win this game. Next up, the 49ers at the Bucs. They go to Tampa. Give me the 49ers to win this game. But this game is going to be the best one of the week, in my opinion. This one's going to be the best because the 49ers, they're hurt. The Bucs, they're hurt. But guess what? They're still fighting. They're still in the mix. Both teams are right now, and really neither of them can afford to lose this game. Neither of them can, because the Bucs are now, they fall to 4-5. They can't fall to 4-6. You fall to 4-6, and your margin of error really starts to go down. And for the 49ers, you fall to 4-5. And you probably fall to last place in the NFC West, which, that'll be really tough for them. So in this game, there's a lot on the line that, a lot of people maybe not think about. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, there's a lot on the line that people really may not be looking at, but this game is a must-win for either one. If they want to stay in the mix and kind of stay where they are and get better. And this game is going to be close. The last time these two teams faced off, it was pretty bad. 49ers absolutely destroyed them, but This game, expect the 49ers and the Bucs to go at it toe-to-toe. Would not surprise me if this game went into overtime. Next up, the Steelers go to Washington to face the Commanders. Give me the Commanders to win this game. Because here's the thing. The Steelers' defense is really good, and they're going to challenge. They're going to challenge this offense and really give them one of the biggest tests they've had all year. And especially with TJ Watt in this offensive line, I expect TJ Watt to have a big day. And seeing him trying to corral Jaden Daniels is going to be fun to watch. I don't even know if it's going to be on in my area, but we'll have to see. I would hope so. It's a 4 o'clock game. No, it's a 1 o'clock game. Dang it. I'm probably not going to be able to watch it. That sucks. I'm excited for this game because this game has a lot of potential to be really, really good. Because, look, I mean, it's a matter of an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. Like, that's an esque of a game that it is. And it'll be interesting to see who wins. Ultimately, I think it's going to be the Commanders that pull it out. I think Jaden Daniels has so much talent that he's going to be able to overcome it. And the Steelers really haven't faced anybody this year, to my knowledge, from what I remember, that's like Jaden Daniels. So it's going to be a tough, tall task, but I expect the Steelers to be up to the challenge. This game is going to be close, but I think the Commanders are going to eke this one out. Next up, the Tennessee Titans travel to LA to face the Chargers. Chargers are going to win this game. They're just much better coached. Their roster is much better, not by much, but the thing of this game is coaching. The Chargers are getting really good coaching right now under John Harbaugh in his staff, or Jim Harbaugh in his staff. And for Tennessee, I mean, they got their second win of the year against New England. But if they want a chance to like do anything this year, they're gonna need more. They're simply gonna need more, and they're going up against a Chargers defense that's really turned a corner and has played really well for them, including multiple former Titans like Elijah Molden, who's really become a good safety for them. And with the Titans and Quandre Diggs out for the year, which is another thing, probably should have kept Molden, but. The thing is, Chargers are just a better coached football team. That's why I have them winning. This game is going to be close. The Titans and Chargers tend to play each other close anyways, whenever they play. But it's going to be the Chargers again this time. Just because, I mean, they're just a better coached football team. There's no sugarcoating it. They're just a better coached football team. And that's what's going to give them the edge in this one. Next up, the Jets at the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be a good game. Because here's the thing. The Jets got a really, really good win against Houston. A very momentum-shifting win for them. Does this mean they're going to go on a run? No. This does not mean they're going to go on a run at all. But here's the thing. You're going up against the Cardinals defense, who overall has not been good this year, but they did pitch a great game against Chicago and the Bears. So so it's kind of a wild card in that sense of what are you going to get? Are you going to get the same old Jets, or are you going to get the same old Cardinals defense? Because you're going to have one, you can't have both. So it'll be interesting to see that matchup and what comes out of that. But the Cardinals offense, they got a big task. They got a big test going against the Jets defense, especially on their interior. I mean, the Cardinals interior offensive line is not great. And so you look at Quinnen Williams going across from you, you're a little scared, you're a little worried, especially because the passing game has been efficient for Arizona, but has not been explosive. And to go up against New York, you're going to need more than just efficient offense to be able to beat them. You're going to need some big plays to go off the top of their head. You're going to have to be able to create some opportunities for yourself. And I don't know if the Cardinals are going to be able to do that, but I still have them winning this game. I have them winning this game just because, I mean, this team is going to go down to the wire. And am I more inclined to believe in the Cardinals defense falling back down to earth or the Jets falling back down to earth offensively? I think the Jets are more likely to do it because, I mean, they don't have their head coach. Their offensive coordinator is no longer calling plays. Their play caller is not that good anyways. So I think the Cardinals have a better chance to win because their defense has a better chance of, continuing what they did last week compared to what the Jets offense did last week, if that makes any amount of sense. Next up, Eagles go to Dallas to face the Cowboys. I said Cowboys on my list, but I'm changing this to Philly. I'm changing this to Philly all the way. I know these two teams play each other really tightly every year. But, I mean, how can you look at this matchup if you're Dallas, and not be terrified of what is coming to town or what's flying into town with Philly and how well their offense has been. I don't know if Devontae or if AJ Brown plays in this game, and if he doesn't, that's going to be a huge break for Dallas. But the Dallas defense and the Eagles offense is going to be the game to watch because the Eagles secondary is not that good, and offensively for Dallas, they have nothing. They literally have nothing right now except for CeeDee Lamb. Cooper Rush he's a good backup, but that's it. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, there's nothing. I already said there's literally nothing. So I expect the Eagles to take advantage of that. They're going to take advantage of a weak offensive line in Dallas, and they're going to be able to shut down the lack of playmakers that are on this team. And there's just really not much to say. The Eagles are winning this game, no doubt about it. Next up, Lions at the Texans. Give me the Lions to win this game. I got mixed up because the Dolphins Rams, I didn't pick that. Well, I guess we'll be picking it live on the show. But give me the Lions to win this game. It's the Lions until they're not. Same thing with the Chiefs. They're just too good right now. And given with Houston and how CJ Stroud has struggled, and without Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, this defense for the Lions is going to have an opportunity to, really sink their teeth down into this team. And I think Houston falls to 5-4. And if they don't keep this game at least close, we might have to start having a conversation about how legit the Texans really are, because the team is already underwhelming compared to what people expected them to be. But if you go in here or Detroit comes into your building and absolutely whoops you, we might need to start having some conversations about what this team really is and how good can it really be. But that'll be Sunday night. That's going to be a fun game. Next one, Dolphins at the Rams on Monday Night Football. This is tight. This is a tough game because it's two bad teams that have been competitive. The Dolphins, they've now been competitive with Tua back. Two teams that really just haven't been able to get over the hump. And with the Rams and their huge win against Seattle in overtime, I think they'll pick the Rams to win this game. Yeah, I'll pick the Rams to win this game, although it's going to go either way. This game is 50-50. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins pulled this one off. But for the Rams, there's just been more consistency. There's more there to believe in. There's more to buy into. And, another thing too is the Rams defensive line is good, and the Dolphins offensive line is not that good. So when looking at the good and the bad, there's more good for the Rams and there's more bad for the Dolphins, and their matchups aren't in Miami's favor all that much compared for the Rams. And yeah, just give me the Rams to win this game, I guess. It's 50-50, but I think the Rams are going to win it. It's going to be a close one. This game might go to overtime as well. It would not surprise me one bit. But the teams that are on bye, I probably should have started with that first. But Browns, Packers, Raiders, Seahawks, all on a bye this week, and all of them lost. So let them take the bye week in the middle of the year to get healthy and maybe come back better for week 11. All right, guys, and that is going to do it for me. Sorry that this is a random cut at the end. But yeah, my phone stopped recording and it died, and I ran out of space. So I guess that's going to do it for me. But thanks, guys, for watching. Don't forget to do what every YouTuber tells you to do. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, and make sure to share the video. Get everybody locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast. And you guys have a good one. I will see you guys next time.